today's session is on marriage customs, and we are going to deal with three cultures, namely Sikhism, which will be represented by Mr. Udaybir Singh, who is over here with us. Very welcome. And Shinto, which is going to be talked about by Miss Hannah Bachelor. Welcome, Hannah. And we were going to have Reverend James Douglas to speak on Christianity. Unfortunately, he is unwell today. Therefore, we have our Reverend David Moffat, who is going to be speaking on Christian wedding ceremonies. So, I'm going to call upon Mr. Udaybir Singh to speak about Sikh wedding ceremony customs and rituals. Mr. Singh is a management consultant by profession and a dedicated volunteer from the Sikh community, actively involved in Blackburn Sikh Gurudwara. He is the founder of Melbourne Singhs, a charity organization focused on promoting awareness of Sikh turbans and the values of Sewa, that's community service. Over the past year, they have been providing support to families of Sikh children and nurses at Monash Children's Hospital, ICU, with snacks to accompany their coffee. Udaybir has also played a pivotal role in leading relief efforts with KhalsaAid during the Lismore floods and volunteered to distribute essential groceries and food supplies to families in need during the COVID-19 pandemic. Married in accordance with Sikh religion and father of two young boys, Udaybir will be presenting today on Anand Karaj, the sacred Sikh wedding ceremony. Welcome, Mr. Singh.
Thank you, Kumla, for that wonderful introduction. I have two of my friends, very dear friends with me today, who would co-present with me. So I have Mr. Udaybir Singh. He's one of the committee members of the Sikh place of worship, which is called the Gurudwara, so Blackburn Gurudwara. He does a lot of charity work outside, and he's engaged with Manningham and White House Council Interfaith programs as well. And I've also got Mr. Raman Singh, who's also a co-volunteer with me at Gurudwara Sahib and also at Melbourne Singhs. So three of us are founders of Melbourne Singhs. And I'll give mic to Singh.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure being here to talk about the Anand Karaj. But before I begin, I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we meet today. I would also like to pay my respects to the elders of past and present. All right, so the Sikh marriage. So the Sikh marriage is actually called the Anand Karaj, which means blissful union. It's a sacred and spiritual union based on mutual respect and equality. It emphasizes the importance of spiritual bonding and equality and partnership. Actually, before I actually carry on, the one thing maybe many of you don't know, the Sikh faith is the fifth largest mainstream religion in the world. It's about 33 million population-wise. Wherever you see people, we're in turn 99% of the time basically they are Sikh, especially in the Western world. And you can probably notice we're probably the original hipsters with our beard styles. Yeah, so it's good to see the rest of the world is taking after us. So sorry, back to the Anand Karaj. So part of the Anand Karaj, so if I go back to, so if I move to the second slide, the historical background. In the Sikh faith, we have 10 gurus, so each guru brings a certain element of the religion. They've introduced a certain aspect of it. So the actual Anand Karaj was initiated by the third guru, Guru Amar Das. Then it was formalized by the fourth guru, Guru Ram Das, and now it's actually that it's codified and it's become part of a code of conduct, which is called the Sikh Rat Maryada. Right, so pre-wedding rituals. These are not religious, these are more cultural. So you'll see these rituals have got a slight mixture of maybe the different cultures we have, or the different religions we have within India. So initially we have the roka, which is a formal commitment ceremony between the families. So this is really a time where the families get together and eat together and celebrate together. So it's not all serious, there is enjoyment as well. So the kadmai is a formal invitation from the bride's family to the groom's family to come for the wedding at their place. Then we have the shagan, which is an exchange of gifts and sweets between both families. The mendi is an element where the actual bride is decorated, or they put henna art on the feet and hands, so you can see that's more from the Muslim culture. And then you got the haldi. Haldi is more of, that's traditionally was also done by the Hindu culture, where they actually put turmeric paste on the bride and groom. So whenever you go to a Sikh wedding or an Indian wedding, you'll probably understand now why they're glowing yellow on the wedding day, is because they put this paste on. Then you have the Jago. Jago is a big celebration. It's almost like a street party where the families will get together and they sort of sing and dance, and they're walking around in the neighbourhood or dancing around just to make an announcement that we have a wedding in the family. So that's the exciting stuff. Now I'll get Raman to talk about the actual religious aspect of the Anand Karaj. So yeah, over to Raman.
Hi guys, how are you? Hopefully you can hear me. Those 7 or 8 functions added on to personal family habits lead to a 4-day pre-wedding. And I'm sure if you haven't been invited to an Indian wedding, you will sooner or later, and you'll realize it's a week-long event. The key focus is the Anand Karaj, and it's condensed into a morning activity. The morning activity begins predominantly with a few prayers from home, and this is actually, it has a multi-layered journey. It symbolizes your journey as a person in your marriage to God in a devotional sense, and obviously the same devotion in your physical sense as your marriage to your spouse. So in its poetic sense, the way our hymns are referenced and used, they often reflect on both sides of your being, your being as a physical being, and then your being as a religious or a emotional being and connecting to God. So that's really where the Anand Karaj gets its formality from. The Gurus wrote it as a guidance on how to live life, and also use it as a stepping stone on how to have a religious relationship with God, or how to have a spiritual relationship with God. And so it plays this 2-dimensional, 3-dimensional game over its poetic verses. So there's a lot of beautiful depth in there. Obviously you can look up the translations, but the idea is that you get up early, go through, clean yourself up, you get ready, you go to Gurudwara side. The scripture is written in a big holy book, but we do believe that this is kind of the word of God, and it has a living sense in it. So we do reach out to it for guidance, and we take what we call a hukamnama, which is like you open up to a middle somewhere page, you start reading at the left top, and that's kind of your guidance, assuming that God understands wherever you're coming from. So yeah, then you basically do it in front of Guruji. Like I said, it's designed to foster a deep spiritual connection. So two very famous hymns that get sung are Hamkar Sajanai, which is kind of welcoming you at the Gurudwara. So any family that welcomes it's a sign of a community that's built around a temple. So it's a welcoming Shabad. And then we have another one where it's Kita Lodya Kam, which means that whenever we take an important duty, we ask God for support. So these 2 hymns are put in place predominantly, so you'll hear them and you'll be like, oh, that sounds familiar at every wedding, because it's kind of developing the foundation to then go on to the specific ceremony. So the ceremony begins after those hymns with the ardas, which is basically everybody stands up and they face the Guru Granth Sahib Ji, and this one's very specific. It happens like kind of in the middle of a service, so it's only dedicated to the bride, groom, and their direct family. It's almost like we're calling you out so that you can stand up and request for your guidance in this marriage. Then the Hukamnama, which is supposed to be kind of the guidance for that marriage towards the couple. Then they have the Palla ceremony. This is more of an emotional handover, you know, where the dad walks up, he takes the dupatta, which is the scarf from the girl, and he hands it to the guy, almost a sense of, here's my daughter, it's your responsibility. We talk about equality, but there is a historical representation of the lead, with God in the spiritual sense being the lead, and hopefully the husband in the physical sense being the lead of the family, and then the handoff to the husband to kind of start this union. Again, similarly with the Lama, there's 4 rounds that are taken around, with each one starting with one hymn, and then the same hymn gets read out, so it's repeated twice. The idea is just to kind of, I think, to give it time and to let it settle in. If you think about it in 2D, which is our physical marriage, or in 3D, which is kind of our journey through life and union and spirituality, the steps are similar. It's preparation. The first one talks about being prepared to serve, understanding what is love, being committed to one. And then obviously the second round is about love, about understanding the deeper value of commitment and building that relationship. The third one is about devotion. It starts to say, now that you've understood and prepared for this, you should also now focus in and realize that your relationship with God or with your partner is about devotion. So it talks about zoning in on one-on-one and focused with devotion. And obviously the last one being union, similar to what we all hope, hopefully through a spiritual journey, which is to meet God and to be united with Him. They say that at the last law is supposed to bring the husband and wife as 2 bodies but as one soul. So both in your physical sense and in your spiritual sense, this is kind of the journey plotted out. It ends very nicely with a Shabad called Puri Asa. Puri Asa means that you're getting your wishes fulfilled. So because the journey is both personal and spiritual, and it kind of takes you on that, they sing a hymn to kind of sum up that, you know, may your wishes get fulfilled. There's an Ansai, which is a prayer that we do out of joy and also out of completion. So that happens, and then finally it comes to the last Hukamnama, which is kind of the word of God as a blessing from the audience. So if you can see, it's almost like a personal relationship and a personal journey, one-on-one with God when you go through the marriage cycle. And this is kind of a very condensed version, but there are a bit more, you know, like I spoke about, the first law being commitment, second law developing a deeper spiritual realizing of true love, and then fourth law being union. So we spoke about this a little bit, and that's really the core of the wedding. They do obviously have some pre-wedding functions. I'll let the fun people talk about that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so post-wedding ritual. So the holy ritual of wedding, which is the Anand Karaj, that's done in the Gurudwara Sikh place of worship, but that doesn't end there, because Sikh weddings, it's big fat Indian wedding, it's supposed to go for weeks. So after that there is Doli. Doli is like, now the marriage is complete, the wedding is done, now the bride is going to the groom's place. So that's a ceremony where the bride goes to the groom's place. Then we have a reception, so we welcome the bride with lot of music, fun, a big celebration. So new bride has come to the family, a new daughter in the house. And then there is a Fera ceremony, so which is after marriage. This is for the first time. The bride with her new husband, she is going back to her home to visit her parent as a married person. So a different emotional sense of going back to our home, not as a daughter, but now I'm daughter to another family as well. Alright, key takeaways. So I think what we just learned today is that because the religious element of it is the Anand Karaj, which is very religious, very practical. It covers a lot of things, and how you connect as individuals, and also how you connect on a spiritual journey to the God. Sikh wedding, very key element here is that we take a lot of things from all other religions, and I think there's an influence of a lot of invasions on India by Mughals and then by British. So we have ring ceremonies, which is a part that has been taken from Christianity, which is done in Sikh wedding today. There is a chunni chadai ceremony where, you know, the bride is given a red dupatta as a gift, which comes from Islamic, some areas of Islamic background. We have got fairas as well, which are derived from Hindu religion. But one element that keeps me very, you know, I wanted to touch base on was the ardas that Roman discussed upon. So the bride, the groom, and both their parents, so they take part in the prayer. So it's not just the bride and groom, it's a ceremony between two families. So it's not just bride and groom, it's a unification of two different families. And to end, there's a lot of music, there's dance, there's food, there are days and days long of celebration. So just a small clip from my brother's wedding, just some dance fun video. So beside all the brothers, my brothers. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Singh, and all of you who have given such an interesting account of the Sikh wedding ceremony. Actually, what I can see, there are a lot of similarities with the Hindu customs as well. So I'm sure after listening to Mr. Singh, you perhaps would have some questions that you would like to ask, and here they are, they will be able to answer. So just put your hand up. Okay, Farooq, did you have your yes.
First of all, thank you so much for the presentation. It's so beautiful, so colorful, so appealing. The color of the turban you call it?
Yes.
Is different color. Does that mean anything?
So the color of turban is just a color of a cloth. So it doesn't have any different significance. There are certain colors which are worn by higher status persons in religion. They choose separate colors. But within Sikhism, I think red, I think I'm wearing white today. And so it's just choice
Fashion.
color matching with something else. That's
The
it.
fashion.
Yes.
Thank you.
It's just more fashion.
Within the Indian culture, though, I think red is more of a celebration color. Yeah.
So red is the color for wedding
Yeah.
in general, with the bride wearing bright red lehenga dress, so there's the color.
Rosalie?
I really enjoyed that. Thank you very much indeed. I was wondering, to what extent are marriages arranged, and to what extent is it sort of the choice of the bride and groom?
Perfect. So mine was a medley between arranged and groom. I knew my wife before marriage, but my parents arranged that marriage. So we were not in a relationship. We knew each other, and then it was arranged. But as the society is progressing further, lots and lots of kids are choosing their own life partner. But I think one key element is that there's always an element of parents' consent, which come into picture in any Indian culture. So that it is. I think it's both 50%, 50% are love marriages, 50% are arranged. Yeah. But in love marriages also, parents' consent is very essential part of Indian culture as per se, and also in Sikh weddings. But any?
Yeah, look,
Sorry.
yeah, my case was different. Mine wasn't arranged. I actually met my other half while on holiday. So, but then, as you say, but you then have the conversation with the parents to make sure that, you know, the traditional side it happens, you know, so obviously that, because it's more of a union of both married families as well, not just only the bride and groom.
And
So, but-
luckily, they tend to stay longer. So the record shows that it's working. The model's working fine.
But with also, like as communities obviously going to different countries, like for example with my family, for example with my family, they left India quite some time ago, over 100 years ago. So like the way my parents got married was very different to what my siblings got married, because they were a bit more open, they were able to meet. And then obviously by the time, because I'm the youngest, I got married was different. How my nephews and nieces are getting married, it's a bit more different. So it's a bit more, evolving, as you say. But the families are still very much involved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Siti, and then we have Trevor.
What I have is just to compare your marriage with us, with the Muslim marriages, especially in Sri Lanka. I think India is the same. We do have these long celebrations before marriage and after marriage. And we also have we'll get our parents' blessings before a marriage, before getting most of them, 99, unless one person might get married without the parents' blessings, but we still have that tradition of getting the parents' blessings. And I still believe that without that, I still feel that marriage will not work, because when you marry two families. According to our culture, the Southeastern culture, we don't marry the man, just the man and the woman. We marry our families together. And that way also, I personally think proposed marriages are much more successful in our side of the country. I don't know what my grandsons will do, but growing up here, but I feel that the proposed marriages are much more successful in Sri Lanka definitely than the other way around, that love marriage.
Thank you, Siti. Trevor, and then Sashi.
Suppose either the bride or the groom come from outside Sikhism, what adjustments and changes are made to the marriage process to take into account someone coming from outside the faith? And can we do behind the microphone?
Yeah, of course.
Thank you. I was missing. Wondering if you answered the question earlier.
There's parts of the ceremony, obviously, that are also translated in English, but I think before, especially the religious part of the marriage, that's also connecting to our Guru. It's sort of 4 stages of the union. So obviously both the couples, then also the connection with God. So it's very important for us, especially as Sikhs, that we actually make that aware. So if someone who's not a Sikh, that before the marriage there is a discussion how that this is what the marriage is about. Because the thing is, as a religion, we do not believe in any form of conversion. So, but when you do have a first lam, it actually, you dedicating yourself to the Guru, and you will live a life as a Sikh. So it's very important when we do have someone who's not a Sikh wanting to have a Sikh wedding. The priest will sit down and explain exactly, this is what we believe in, this is what we do, are you happy to accept this? If they are, then it's the case, you sort of move forward. But otherwise, we, like I say, because the last thing we want is have someone make a commitment in front of the Guru but not realizing what the commitment is. Yeah. So we do have weddings which are non-Sikhs with Sikhs getting married in the Gurudwara. Yeah, but obviously we do have to tell them beforehand that this is your commitment. Yeah, but we, like I said, we have any ground rule to say no, you must convert or you must do this. There's nothing like that at all. But it's more of having that respect and mutual respect of the faiths, and then making sure going forward you sort of accept the fact that yes, you are, one of the partners is Sikh, that you respect each other. Hence, in our faith, our whole philosophy is that it's all about oneness, that we're all one big family. Hence, in the Gurudwara, you get many people from different walks of life, different faiths who come there. Because even the actual structure of Gurudwaras is basically 4 doors which represent, regardless of what faith you are, which part of the world you come from, we all believe in the one thing. So it's all about making sure that we all respect each other and that we all move forward together. That's the basic principle of the Sikh faith.
Is there so red is the color, but most Western weddings you have the white gown, wedding gown, and then the bridesmaid have different colors, like they have different feet. So is it the same? Like, do you have bridesmaids with multiple, or is it? Because I know, I'm Chinese, so Chinese we had the Western gown as well as the red Chinese dress. So I'm just
red is the auspicious color for wedding. It's the color for celebrations, and Indian culture, I think both in Hindu culture and Sikh culture. There are certain other colors that are also worn, like royal blue, which is a Sikh army attire color. So those people who associate themselves to the army side of Sikh or the Nihal side of Sikh, so they choose to wear blue during their wedding, and other side who are more spiritual, they choose to wear red. But like in the bride and the video, she was wearing, I think it was a maroon with a lot of different colors on her dress. So yeah, they get 10 functions, so they choose 10 different colors. Although I think it's a red one. I think originally white wasn't considered a color for wedding in culture, but nowadays some patterns of white with different floral colors on it is being accepted as we are progressing with the society. But traditionally white wasn't never the color for it.
Yeah, actually for what? Sorry, just to finish. White is like for funeral, for wedding.
Yes.
And then we also have like you do, the bride would go back to her family after the wedding, like on the third day, Chinese. Third day, the whole family. We go back to her family for another celebration as well. So.
Thank you. Our person that we are going to have is Miss Hannah Betala. Hannah is 27 years old. She was born in Kyoto, Japan. She has lived in Melbourne for about 5 years, was a student for 3 years, learning English and early childhood education in Kea. Hannah now works as an early childhood educator. Welcome.
Good afternoon. I'm here to present Shinto traditional marriage. Before beginning the presentation, I would like to introduce myself. I am Hanae, as introduced. I'm from Japan. We held our wedding ceremony in March this year. We had a Christian-based Western-style wedding officiated by David. As my husband's family is Christian. However, my parents is a Shintoism. When I was invited to do this presentation from David, I wanted to honor my family's beliefs, learn about my culture, and wanted to share it with all of you today. Let's start talking about Shinto ceremony. Shinzen-suki is the Shinto wedding ceremony held at the shrine or temple that honor Japanese tradition and heart. However, roughly half modern weddings in Japan are Western styled, usually held in chapel or hotel venues. Having a wedding at the shrine means supporting lives and the lives of the two of you to the ritual stages. They thank the people who helped them and the relationship that allowed them to meet, bow to eternal love in front of God, watch your eye, and report to the God that they will walk the rest of life together. Next, I would like to introduce clothing of the bride and the Shinto bride and grooms in Shinto wedding ceremony. Japanese bridal attire can be divided into 4 main types, such as shiromuku, that's the white dress, irouchikake, hiki furisode, and furisode. Of these, the shiromuku is the most representative Japanese attire and is the most formal of all wedding attire. Shiromuku refers to uchikake, worn over a kimono, and it is a basic for wedding attire to have everything from the kimono to the accessory all pure white. Shiromuku began the wedding costume for samurai families during the Muromachi period, and its white color symbolized sacredness and had a meaning of dying with the style of the family you married into. The groom's costume that matches bridal attire is generally a hakama with a crest. There are several types, but the most prestigious is the black haori hakama with a 5 crest. The black haori has a family crest on both chest sleeves and back in 5 places. Next, let's look at the 11th stage of Shinto ceremony. Step number 1 is a procession, Sanshin no Gi. All wedding participants line up in a fixed order and slowly march toward the worship hall in the Shinto shrine. At the head of the line is a musician of the Shinto ceremony called Gakujin. The Gakujin followed by a Shinto priest called Saishu, who will officiate the ceremony. The Saishu is followed by a couple shrine maiden called Miko, who will assist him with various religious duties. Behind the bride, the grooms followed by their guest. Step number 2 is entering Shinto worship hall where the wedding ceremony takes place. Step number 3 is a purification. This is a second sacred ceremony in front of the god. All human participants need to be purified. Step number 4 is reporting. The Saishu informed the god why these people are here today. He chants a holy script expressing the bride and groom's desire to be united in a marriage and form a new family. He also asked to the god to bless the new couple with happiness, longevity, and bunch other good things. Because the Saishu is chanting is a form of ancient Japanese, the exact meaning of his words can be elusive even to native Japanese speaker. Step 5 is Sankon no Gi. The couple will be presented with 9 couples with sake, 3 small cups, 3 medium cups, and 3 large cups. They will take stand in finishing all of them. In Shinto religion, it's believed that you are what you eat and drink. Therefore, by drinking the same sacred sake, an inseparable bond is formed between the god, groom, and the bride. The 6th step is the exchange of wedding rings. Originally, the ritual was not part of the Shinto ceremony, but many people requested it, and recently most shrines have adopted ring exchange. The step number 7 is the reading of the wedding oath. The Saishu invited the groom and bride to step forward and read their oath directly to the god. Step 8 is the tamagushi offering to thank the god for witness their marriage. It said that tamagushi can be observed the sincerest feeling of the groom, of the person holding it. Therefore, by offering the tamagushi to the god, person communicates his or her deepest wishes to the god. Step number 9 is pair of Miko. A shrine maiden takes the center stages to perform ritual dance. The dance is not just the entertainment, it's also a form of Shinto prayer. Step 10 is Shinzoku Hainogi, which is a sake ceremony for family. Relatives from both sides, including parents, take stand drinking the sacred sake. This is a ceremony for 2 families to become one. The 11th step is the final step, the farewell greeting by Saishu. Here, he officially informed the god that ceremony is over. Reiterate the plea for blessing, and express once more the collective gratitude of all wedding participants. After his word, everyone stand up, line up, and exit the hall. A Shinto ceremony is a wedding ceremony based on the idea tying family together. Therefore, compared to other wedding style, the rituals performed at the shrine, Shinto shrine, are often performed by the bride and groom, as well as by their relatives, and each has its own meaning. In addition, since the Shinto ceremony was originally based on the idea that all relatives, including the person in question, are connected as a home-to-home, the participants are often only relatives. So in Japanese, not many people is doing this kind of traditional marriage these days. We don't have really dancing in this like traditional like Shinto ceremony, but then after the Shinto ceremony, they might have like a reception that more like friends and families involving, and they have like eating together, have some entertainment. Thank you for all attention and patience listening to my presentation. I am grateful to learn about other cultures. Thank you again for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you, Emma. Actually, I was in Japan some time ago, and I did see the bride and the groom approaching the shrine, and they did have the procession with them. At that point, I stood over there and I just saw what was happening, but didn't make much sense to me. But your presentation today has clarified a number of things also. That's really very nice. Thank you. And I'm sure there will be some questions among the audience. If you do have the questions, can you please raise your hand, and then we can get another. Yes, Michelle.
I was interested to hear what you were saying about them wearing white wedding dresses, because my experience of Asian culture is that they usually use red for weddings. That is traditional in Chinese culture. It's also traditional in Indian culture, if I recall correctly. And so, how come it's different in Japan? Do you have any idea? It's good that it is, but I'm not so interested in why.
I am not totally sure about this question, but many people do the Western style that's also wearing the white dress in a white dress, and as I introduced in the presentation, the white means it can be many color. So when you go into the new family, you accept the other persons.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Yeah.
So, that's good.
What a question there.
Do you have any pre-wedding arrangement? Because you said it's a marriage of families, and the husband and wife or the bride and groom will lead the family, the ceremony. Is there any pre-wedding approval or check or?
Yes, in Japanese culture, we visit the other families to get the permission to the parents. So we go both families like one by one, and then after that they have normally like both families together to have the dinner or lunch together. So to get to know the family. In my wedding, we went to the Japan to have the engagement party, but at the time they could see each other, so we kind of did. But yeah, many people had the dinner together.
Sashi, then Delina.
I just came from Japan, and I was at one shrine, and it was written wedding in Hida. What that means? It's a way of wedding, or Hida is a place?
Wedding
in Hida, H-I-D-A.
Hida.
Hida. Wedding in Hida.
In progress.
I'm not too sure about the place, but maybe it could be the Hida is the place of the shrine.
No idea. But it was written, as you said, it was the union of two families.
Yeah.
But marriage used to make a connection of both families, bride and groom. So all those things which you are saying was written there a long time back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think you can see from the outside of the shrine, like how they marching, but mostly when they do inside the shrine, it's going to be mostly only relatives.
Yeah, it was a sort of a museum, old historical museum. Yeah. I'll show you.
Yeah. I'm just curious because you showed a photo of the groom and he had a family crest.
Yes.
And you said that this crest was there in 5 places. So I want to know, like, do all the families have a crest? And then the other question is, what are the other 5 places and would you know the significance?
So sorry, I don't know why is the place is called. But in the history, they had each family has a family crest. But these days, not many people wearing the family like kimono. But my family, my father doing the kimono wholesaler. So my family has the family crest with the hakama, and I don't know if everyone's having different crest.
Kamala, there was a question over there.
Yes, go ahead and then.
Question. This is the case of a boy and a girl both Japanese. But what about the boy or the girl is from a different? Have they to follow some kind of restrictions or kind of things to do?
Other things?
No, if they're like, say a Western man and a Japanese.
It's because in Japan the wedding style is very depends on the grooms and bride. Like we go to the wedding wedding salon to ask like what's the best for them. Sometimes they do Western style. When they want to do the Japanese style, they can be with the Western people, but I think we need to tell the person how we do the ritual stages, that because it's a bit tricky even for native Japanese speaker. They have like specific way to do, like even go to shrine and do some like bow in front before entering door, like praying. So they just communicate each other and find out what's the best for them.
Another question, then I have a question, Hannah. You talked about the oath that the bride and the groom they take in the shrine. Is the oath similar to the oaths that Mr. Singh talked about, that the bride and the groom? What is the oath?
Oath for commitment, but it's more, I think, using the Japanese, ancient Japanese. So they had like a basic one, but added like their names. But it's not like the Western style, they can choose their word. It's more, they already had the word and talk to that God. Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Christianity, and as I said, our Reverend is not very well, therefore it's going to be represented by our Reverend David Moffat. And Reverend David Moffat was born in Perth, Western Australia, attended school in the United Kingdom. He completed a music degree at the University of Melbourne and a diploma of education at Sydney University. After teaching high school music for 2 years, he entered theological college and was ordained in 1997, serving churches in Birmingham, UK, and Canberra, Australia. He married Pam, sitting down over here, in 1993, and they have 3 children, aged 26 to 30. David has been spiritual leader of Swedenborg Community Victoria since 2020. In 2016, he was appointed president of the New Church in Australia and is currently vice president of Monash Interfaith Gathering, MIG, and Mount Waverley and Jetson Inter-Church Council. Welcome, David.
Just for a little light entertainment. Pam and I were married in 1991. Yes, at the age of 22. I wanted to acknowledge that there are many different rites and festivals associated with Christian weddings, wedding ceremonies. So you might go to a Catholic service and see a Catholic wedding mass, many, many different varieties. And I really wanted to talk from my own perspective, which, one very particular perspective. And what I wanted to share today was the symbolism of marriage. We've already, I think, touched on it a little with the other presenters. Not so much the symbolism of the ceremony, but the symbolism of the relationship itself. What does marriage itself symbolize? Because this is very important for my own understanding of my Christianity. So I wanted to share with you some passages from the Bible, the Christian scriptures. And this is from the very last book, the book of Revelation. In chapter 21, almost at the very end, we hear these words, and it seems very strange. Now I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth had passed away. Also there was no more sea. Then I, John, saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. A city prepared as a bride. And then later on in the same chapter, John recounts this. Then one of the 7 angels who had 7 bowls filled with the 7 last plagues came to me and talked with me, saying, "Come, I will show you the bride, the Lamb's wife." And he carried me away in the Spirit to a great and high mountain and showed me again the great city, the holy Jerusalem, descending out of heaven from God. So we have this idea of a marriage representing something. And what is it that it represents? As we look elsewhere in Christian scriptures, we can sometimes get tied in knots about, especially in our modern world, about women's rights. So, for example, the Apostle Paul writes in Ephesians this: "For the husband is head of the wife, as also Christ is the head of the church, and he is the Saviour of the body." Now, in our tradition, we don't think so much of the husband being head of the wife. It's more about the relationship between God and us. This is what is reflected in the Christian marriage. So when we think about marriage, we think about the relationship between a man and a woman. We think about our relationship with the divine. Each of us as individuals. So I am as much a bride as any of you are because of that relationship. For us, it also expresses something of the nature of God. In our understanding of Christianity, we talk about God being divine love and divine wisdom, and that these two are united as one. They must be united as one in God, in divinity. And it also expresses for us the way those two sides of life must be united in our own lives. And our highest expression of humanity is where our head and our heart work together. And this for us is what marriage means. So, for example, I'm going to quote a slightly longer passage of the teachings of Jesus from Matthew's Gospel. He says, "You have heard that it was said, 'You shall love your neighbour and hate your enemy.' But I say to you, love your enemies. Bless those who curse you, do good to those who hate you, and pray for those who spitefully use you and persecute you, that you may be sons of your Father in heaven. For he makes his sun rise on the evil and on the good, and sends rain on the just and on the unjust. For if you love those who love you, what reward have you? Do not even the tax collectors do the same? And if you greet your brethren only, what more do you do than others? Do not the tax collectors do so? Therefore you shall be perfect, just as your Father in heaven is perfect." Now that last sentence, we use this word perfect in the translation I've just read. The real word means whole, integrated, a self-consistent unit, so that everything you do reflects the full depth of your nature. And this is what I mean by this relationship and this union of the head and the heart, where we are whole, integrated as an individual. Then we find our truest expression of humanity, and we find our truest expression of our relationship with the divine. And we can be truly united also with one another as individuals. The last thing I want to say is that this is a lifelong process. We get married on a day in history, 9th of February 1991. And we remember the day, and it's a wonderful celebration of our union with one another. But of course, that's not the end of the work, that's only the beginning. And so it is with our spiritual lives, that this union of head and heart that must take place within us is a lifelong endeavour. We all get it wrong at times. We all must remember that day where we made that commitment together. And we must continue to work and strive at this union with one another and also within ourselves. Friends, thank you. That's all I wanted to share with you.
Thank you, David, for a very comprehensive account of what a marriage between a man and a woman represents.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sure you will have questions to ask David.
Thank you, David, for sharing. It was a beautiful picture. I was just wondering, so I have, I wasn't invited, I just happened to be there in a church to witness a wedding. And just like Japanese or Indian Sikh weddings or Hindu weddings, are there any pre-wedding rituals or customs, celebrations in Christianity?
That will vary a great deal. There's such a broad sort of spectrum of practices and rites associated with marriage. So typically a couple will get engaged prior to marriage, a year or 2 years before. Pam and I actually had a betrothal ceremony, which my father was also a minister, which he led. And we exchanged gifts, we exchanged books at that. But that was something that was very personal to us, that we felt was meaningful to us, and certainly that's not, I don't know that we know anybody else who had gone through that sort of ceremony. So that was something that we thought together was an important commitment before the marriage itself. But there's such a wide variety of practices.
And some people have counselling.
Oh, and counselling. Yeah. Counselling is often offered as well by, a Christian minister will offer counselling to a couple. Again, that varies a great deal.
David, it would be, I think, that the ring is a symbol is that universal?
Oh, the engagement ring.
Well, no, I'm thinking of the wedding ring.
You're thinking of the wedding ring. Well, I think in terms of the pre-wedding preparation, there's the engagement ring is often given to the woman, the bride to be, and she will wear that from that point to say that she's about to be married, and then at the wedding itself, there will be the wedding rings that are exchanged by the couple. I do understand that's a fairly recent innovation, actually. It used to be that the woman only received the wedding ring. But these days, we all, I think most of us, men have a wedding ring.
Do you have any ceremony like with the, sorry, there was somebody else?
Okay, so go ahead and then
Is there any like a ceremony like double weddings? Like I know the ring. Is there anything else that you do at your wedding ceremony?
There's vows. We've spoken in the other cultures about vows being said. That's very important. But we've been at Christian weddings where there's been a Holy Communion or a Holy Supper has been celebrated as part of the ceremony. But these are not universally practiced. It will depend very much on the individual couple. It's almost an anything goes in the West these days. There's such a variety of things that take place. And some people draw from, their home cultures. So say Jordan and Hannah together, had a Shinto part to their wedding and then the Christian part to their wedding as well. Yeah, so it's just such a wide variety of things that take place these days.
Thank you. Yes, we got a question there, Mr. Singh.
Thank you for your presentation today.
Thank you.
Much appreciated. Now, obviously, since you got married, and now we see a lot of changes as in like multiculturalism coming into Australia. So how are you managing or the ceremony between different cultures? Like we asked the question before, if there are different backgrounds, different cultures coming for like into unions now, so the changes which are coming in now, how are you accommodating that in the churches?
So I can only talk from my experience about this one as a minister. So it's very much a conversation between myself and the couple. What it is that they are looking for in their wedding ceremony, what is it that is meaningful to them, that will reflect for them the importance of their marriage. So Hannah and Jordan, my most recent couple, were married a few months ago. Talking to them about what they wanted in their ceremony. Another one that I did in New South Wales going back several years ago now, the couple wanted a hand fasting ceremony, which is where the couple have their hand bound together. That's the first time I've done that. The bride came in on a tractor. So there is a great variety of things, and for me as a minister, a Christian minister, I think in the forefront of my mind is let's allow whatever it is that the couple are asking for, provided that it is sacred and relevant, So I just obviously have to think about things. Are they wanting to do something that's completely outrageous that will upset people? Those sorts of things. But I tend to be more permissive and allow the couple to express their own personality and their own cultures together.
And how far are you acceptable to gay marriages or lesbian marriages which are happening now?
And that will change from church to church. There are some churches that accept gay marriages, and there are other churches that don't. My church at the present time does not, and that is an organisational position which I then must abide by. Okay. But some churches certainly do celebrate gay marriage, but other churches don't, and it will depend on the individual organisation.
Thank you. All right. Sashi, we'll give one more, and then Sashi will come.
Mine's
Yes,
a clarifying comment. The question that was just asked is about marriage in Australia and that's somewhat distinct from marriage in a particular faith tradition. First of all, marriage in Australia is a legal contract, and it has to fulfil certain legal requirements, and there has to be a licensed marriage celebrant. Okay, so that person who declares they're married is working for the state, for the government. That's marriage in Australia. Then there's faith marriages of different kinds, and in Christian marriage, what I like to hear today was, and I know through running in Christian marriage, the key is that the vows that one makes to the other before God, full stop. The rest is all add-on. And I heard that in the other traditions as well. The key is the vow that one makes to the other before a divine being, God. That sounds pretty right, doesn't it?